This
as
conference
a
will
product
now
guy,
be recorded.
right? So these are the very basic commands we need to aware of. How do we use them on day-to-day life operations as a DBA? So we discussed yesterday. Please go through the video if anyone missed out, because we discussed a very good amount of time on each command. So let's move with the permission set today. This is another important part of knowing at the OS level to manage the product, because we need to know if the service is not coming online for some reason, why it is not coming online. There could be numerous reasons why the service won't come online, but one of the issue will be with the service account permissions. Okay, we'll run through a lot of troubleshooting, and I intentionally create issues, and I intentionally fix it because you don't know most of the things, right? So we'll go through anyway. First, understand how the permission set works, right? So the softwares are also will be given out once you pay out the fee. Some people already paid. I'll send the link today. Don't worry. Now, so I'm connecting through the client tool. Okay, when we connect one-on-one, how to use this tool, how you connect, how you load the operating system into the VMware, and what are the settings we have to do to connect through the tool. We will do that one-on-one once you pay out the fees and all that. Okay, fine. So now I'm logging with one of the user which exists on the machine, else you cannot log in. You should have a valid user to talk to enter into the OS, in fact. So this user already exists, that's why it is already connected. And also it did not ask for the password. The tool will remember the password. Every time you, first time you connect, it will ask you whether you wanted to cache the password or not. If you say yes, it won't ask the password anymore. This tool, third-party tool, in fact. Fine. So if I go to, where we will connect by default, we will connect under home directory. Whoever it is, whatever the privilege you have it, when you enter into the machine, you will land into your home directory. Under home directory, you can do anything that you wanted. Nothing is actually going to be stopped. I mean, you can do all operations that you wanted to do. I wanted to create a directory. I wanted to create a directory called SQL DBA 100. You can create LSFNL. The directory got created straight away. SQL DB 100. I wanted to create some empty file, touch file 1, file 2, file 3, something. They got created. There is no issue in terms of operations as long as you are under your home directory. But in the real world, you don't do anything under your home directories. You have to do on the file systems, like where the product files are sitting. So you will install the product in a different mount points or file systems, so that if you wanted to access there, you need to have a special privilege. Either you need to own the directory where the product is running, or you should be part of the sudo group. As a DBA, we will get the sudo privilege. Sudo privilege in Windows, we'll call it as administrator. We can install anything, we can uninstall anything, we can delete anything, we create anything with administrative role in the Windows platform. The same similar privilege in the Unix flavors called sudo. So where do we find who and all sudo? We're going to talk today. We're going to entire class, we're going to dedicate for the permissions itself. I'll take you through all of that. So as long as you are into your home directory, you can delete anything, create anything, destroy anything, whatever you have under your home directory. So when I go out of my home directory, so I'm going to the var directory here. There is a var directory. It's a different file system. In fact, it's not your home directory. Okay, home directory will be here where you load by default. I mean, your connection will load into home directory. So home directory is just like Windows. Yesterday I was talking about this, right? Where you can find users who are connected to the Windows machine. Here, all the users who are connected to this, the same way in Unix flavor also, c.c/home. Why I'm calling before the slash? Because this is a file system. This is one of the file system. When you connect to the mount point or file system, you have to give the slash in the beginning. So now enter into the home. There are these many people, accounts exist on this machine. So when they connect to this machine, MongoDB user, it will load it into /home/MongoDB, any user for that matter. So I'll create some users anyway, but let me go out of home directory. I'm getting out of home directory now. Okay. Here these many directories are there. If I'm trying to create a directory here, I'm trying to create a directory called SQLDB or MongoDB example. Permission denied. Why it is permission denied? In fact, I'm not inside my home directory. I'm out of my home directory. If I am out of my home directory, I need to be sudo over to do anything. I need to be administrator, or I need to own the file entire file system to do anything. Okay, so let me go. Let me create one user quickly. I have everything in whatever I'm discussing. Everything is mentioned in the slides. The slide I'll upload to the Google Drive today after the class. So sudo user add. I'm creating a user just for the sake of discussion. Okay. So example, I'm creating the user add Bhaskar just for the case of discussion, right? So then it'll ask for the password for the Bhaskar. Fine. So we're going to set the password. It is not confirmed, in fact. Double time. Okay, fine. So now user Bhaskar got created, and I'm going to set the password sudo PSSWD. So we are setting the password for that user. It is a mandatory step we have to do. Okay, now I'm going to go log in with the Bhaskar. So try to follow here slowly. It is little dry subject, the permission set, but you can understand by the end of the class. So I created a user called Bhaskar. Okay, you can even verify that under home directory. The user directory would have been created by now. If you see, there is a folder called Bhaskar because I created here. It exists locally on the machine, in fact. So now he's trying to log in. I gave the password already here. I entered the username password. If I enter, it'll ask you that, do you wanted to save the password for Bhaskar user on this tool? Yes. If I say yes, it will not ask me the password anymore for the Bhaskar user on this tool to connect to that server. Which server? Linux 011. Linux 11 server, it won't ask the password anymore. This tool will cache the password automatically. So if I open a new session for the same server, this is the advantage of this tool. For the same server, we can open multiple sessions. Username is case sensitive. Like if it is uppercase means uppercase, lowercase means lowercase only. If you enter low for lowercase, uppercase to lowercase, it won't work. CD directly connects for the Bhaskar. Did not ask the password because in the first when I was connected, I told the system that cache the password. It said that, do you want to save the password for this user? Yes, I said. So going forward, it won't ask the password anymore. Okay, that is one thing. So now if I go to here cd where here I'm out of my home directory. I don't want to discuss about the home directory. Under your home directory, you're absolutely if I go to cd, it will take me to my home directory yesterday as we discussed. So here we don't have anything, but where I am right now in the home Bhaskar profile, MKDAR example. Bhaskar is trying to create data file directory, log directory, temp directory. He can do anything, of course. Absolutely. Touch file 1, file 2. It is a home directory where he allowed to do anything that you wanted. Any amount of data he can generate, he can consume all the space storage in the home directory. It is possible. You should not do that, but he can download anything, any big file that can take the entire the home directory space. Example, what is a home directory space here? The home directory here is roughly 12 GB is free. Out of 12 GB, only 706 is used. Almost 12 GB is free. So Bhaskar can download. Command. Yes, Manish. Yes, today I'm going to cover permission set. Yes, I'm going to cover how
Okay,
the.
actually, I'm living. Actually, I have a good idea of Linux, right?
Okay, yeah, good enough. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, just to a lot of people are not from Unix flavor, so that's why I wanted to cover that first. Yeah,
Okay.
you can.
Okay.
Tomorrow we'll start the product anyway.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah, carry on. So now here, guys, Bhaskar can load 6 GB of 12 GB of data, anything that he wanted. He can consume all the home directory if he wanted, but we don't do anything under our home directories in the real time. In the real time, we will work with the product. Product does not exist under your home directory. It will be out of your directories, right? So if I go to the var directory, okay, here you see, if you know the Unix flavor, still just bear with me. There are a few things which you don't know also we will discuss. Even you're working for years also, there will be few things. There will be misconceptions. We'll discuss about it. Fine. So now, if I come out of the home directory right now into the var directory, I'm not in the Bhaskar home directory. I cannot create anything here. If I'm trying to create anything, it will throw the error, permission denied, because you don't have a privilege to go out of your home directory and do anything on the system, in fact. Okay, fine. So now I'll go to the one of the directory. I'll intentionally create one directory here just for the case of discussion. Cd var to create a new directory. If I wanted to create a new directory, I can create with a sudo over privilege. Sudo means administrative privilege. Sudo over is equivalent to administrator. So the Ravinder account is a sudo account. Okay, sudo mkdir. I'm going to create a lab directory, just a lab directory. So now you can see that lab directory got created. In fact, lab directory got created. Though I'm out of my home directory, I'm out of my home directory, I can create because I'm the sudo over. Okay, so if I wanted this guy also to be created anywhere, we should make him sudo over, but we don't make everyone sudo over, right? So in the real time, developers no need to be sudo overs. They can connect, they can only manage the folders where they wanted to, if at all they have to, on the servers, not entirely. So now what I wanted to talk about here is, guys, so if I go to the lab, here still I cannot create a directory. mkdir a test lab directories I wanted to create. Permission denied. I cannot do it. Let's do it here. Now I created two directories here. Okay, I'm going to create two files, touch file 1, file 2, file 3 something. This is intention. So we have 3 files and 2 directories. How do I say which is directory, which is file? Let me take out this into a notepad and explain you that what all this in fact. When you list out the files, so here it is saying multiple things to us, in fact. So if I paste here, these are all, this first hyphen will tell you that is a file. The first hyphen will tell you it is a file. Directory D means directory, it is a directory, it is a browsable. Hyphen is a file which is a readable, in fact. So the first 3 permissions here, if I separate it out to make you better understand, the first 3 permissions are the owner permission. Who is owning this file is a root user. Owner permissions. Next 3 digits will indicate the group permissions. Next 3 digits will indicate the others permission. What are the owner? What is a group? We will explain step by step. Follow here. This is very important to follow. I'm making it separate here. This is user. This is a group. This is others. Third part. So differentiate better. Okay. Fine. I'll explain with a lot of examples. Don't worry. You definitely get familiarized. But this is what is a dry thing in the Unix flavor side, right? Every file or directory doesn't matter. It have 3 levels of permission. One is the owner permission, second is the group permission, third is the others permission. Other means anyone who enter into the machine, like able to enter into the machine, he'll become other on the file. If you look at this, others got the read privilege. So let's show me. Let me show here. So if I go to here, cd var lab, under lab directory, if I go and read this file, it doesn't have anything as of now, it is 0. So if I go to cat file 1, it doesn't have anything. So I'm going to load some data into that file. vi file 1. Can I modify directly vi? I cannot, because this the user who logged in is Ravinder. The file is owned by root. I cannot, so I have to use a sudo to modify that file. So it is a file 1, it does not have any data, 0 lines, 0 characters. Someone have question? Seems someone unmuted. Banu, you have question? Banu, you have a
No,
question?
Ravi.
You're not unmute actually.
No, no.
Yeah, so I'm muting you. Because there is a background sound, it is getting recorded. That is the reason. Fine. So now this is a test file created for permission demonstration, something like that. Okay. I inserted a data what I wanted. I need to come out of the insert mode, escape, then colon, W for saving, Q exclamatory for quitting. So when you are in the insert mode, escape, colon, W for saving, Q exclamatory for the quitting the modification, whatever you wanted to modify. Now this has some data. So if I look at this one, if I read this file, cat file 1, I can sorry, cat file 1. I can read it. Who? So even Bhaskar can read Ravinder. So Ravinder, even Bhaskar also read cat file 1. You cannot give Bhaskar reject here. Three digits are the group layers. Then third 3 digits are the others privileges. Other then layer. It's got the read privilege. So Bhaskar is our the system now. Is part of the group, owner of the file. Still, read not is able to read it, the content of it, modify it. If he's trying, we cannot to do vi file 1. So just open the file and it is saying read mode, just read only. It is clearly read only. Anyway, if you're trying to do forcibly, I'm trying to do something. So example and save that action. What it you cannot because you don't have a privilege to write as other. So I need to escape and then quit without saving. Quit that without saving so that it will come out of it. I can only read this file because others got the read privilege on the file. I can read this file also if it has some data. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take out this permission from the file. How? So there is something called change permission, sudo chmod, as Ravinder does not own the file to change the permission. Ravinder does not own the file. See, user is Ravinder, the file is owned by root account. So only root account can change the privilege, but sudo can also change it. That's why I'm calling sudo chmod, change the permissions to 7, example 760 and the file. What exactly that I'll talk about just right after this. So now if I go with LSF and L, the permissions got changed. For owner, read, write, execute. For group, read, write. For others, completely things permissions are lost. No permission for others. So if I go and read the same file what I was read before, now it will not read. Why it is permission saying denied? The read permission for others lost. It was there before, he was able to read. But now he cannot read. Not even Bhaskar, Ravinder also cannot read it directly without sudo or privilege. File 1, permission denied. Because Ravinder is also other. He's not part of the root group. He is not owner of the file. He's other. Others don't have any privilege on the file. So understand this thing. This thing is important. Every file or directory will have 3-layer privilege: owner privilege, group privilege, others privilege. Others every time will be minimal. You cannot do everything with others privilege, in fact, in the real world also. So you should control others permissions all the time. We will control, in fact. We don't allow everyone to read the content of the files because it's risky and some critical data, in fact. So to control the privileges, we have absolute mode symbolic mode. Let's talk about absolute mode first. Absolute mode. There are numbers to talk about that. 0 means no permission. 0 means all hyphens, which means no permission. Okay. 1. 1 means execute. Execute permission. Execute permission. I'll conclude it. Don't worry. 2 means write permission. Write permission will be indicated hyphen. Write hyphen. It comes in the middle. The write privilege. Then 3. 3 stands for write and execute permission. Write and execute permission. And 4 stands for read privilege. R hyphen hyphen. Read only privilege. 5 indicates, I'll explain this. How do you remember also? Because you have to memorize this. Either you memorize or understand. Either of it is. So RX, R hyphen X. Read and execute. Read and execute. 5 means the number indicates. 6. RW hyphen 6 means. So read and write. 7. Read, write, execute. It gives all privileges. Read, write, execute. Read, write, and execute. So you need to either you have to memorize these numbers with the permission set, or I'll give a hint here. Just memorize these 3 at least. 1 means execute, hyphen hyphen X. 2 means write, hyphen write X, hyphen again. 4 means read. See, 3 is a combination of 2. See, any permission will make combination of 2 other permissions. Actually, 3 can be made a combination of 2 individual permissions. What are those? 1 plus 2 can make 3. That's why write, execute. And 5, what 2 individual permission can make 5? 4 plus 1. 4 plus 1 only can make 5. Individual, if you talk about 1, 2, and 4. What combination can make 5? 4 plus 1. So here read, execute. 6, 4 plus 2 can make 6. So read, write. 7, 4 plus 2 plus 1 can make 7. So you have to memorize this. I'll share this file also in the share. Whatever I discuss, as a technical thing, I'm going to share on the Google Drive along with the video. You can find it. So now changing the permissions. Let's talk about that. chmod. There is a command called chmod, and you have to give the number. First digit will indicate the owner privilege. Second digit will indicate the group privilege. Third will indicate the others privilege. I have file 1. So what exactly it does? For owner, it will give you read and execute. For group, it will give only write. For others, no permission. 0 means no permission. So that's what I did when I was doing here. 7 means read and execute, and 6 means read, write only. 0 means no permission. So you can see that read and execute, read, write, and no permission for the others. It was removed. That's why we are not able to read it. So now if I wanted to assign the permission back again, sudo, because I don't own the file, chmod example 6 4 example 642. What permissions we are giving it? Can anyone quickly tell? For owner, read, write. For group, read. For others, write privilege. If I, oh come on, I should keep that password because I am using sudo. So now if I go and check here, the permission got changed. For owner, read, write. 6 means read, write. 4 means read. You can see this read. 2 means write. So now everyone can write into the file, but they cannot read it. That's a big problem here. If you look at Bhaskar or Ravinder, both are others only at the moment on the file. So let's play with the Bhaskar user. So if I go and try to read that file permissions, these are the file permissions. If I'm trying to read this, it will throw the error, permission denied. But if I try to modify the file content, yes, you can modify. This file got modified by Bhaskar. using is the right privilege something. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I'm saving it. You can save it, but whatever is written you cannot read it because you don't have a read privilege. You can override the content every time it does. So if you go and see and read that file with the sudo cat file1, I can read it with the sudo privilege. See, this file got modified by Bhaskar. He overwritten the file. Every time he writes, he cannot see the content, existing content. So every time he tried to change the content, it will get overwritten. So now I'm going to insert mode. This is a new modification done by example Bhaskar. I'm going to save this. The previous content again overwritten. So if I have to read, I have to read from this session only because sudo I need it. So as he got the read privilege, every time you open the file, you cannot see the old content. Whatever you input, that is a new content. It's the overwritten content. If you have only write privilege on the file, every time you do any inserts or any updates on the file, it is a new content or existing data is gone. Because for integrity of that permission, it is actually removing existing thing. It is adding your content because you got that privilege in fact. So write privilege is something not good, right? It can contain, it can override the entire content what the file was having. It is lost. In fact, whatever you are doing, it is a new content. It is like loading into a new file equivalent to. Every time you open it and you write it, the existing content is gone, new content is taken into the file. Because you have only read privilege, you don't have a read privilege. Write privilege you have it, read privilege you don't have it. Okay, that way it is. Fine. So now if I go to next level privilege, so now if I talk about LSFNL, if I wanted to change the privilege to others, so write execute sudo chmod for group I wanted, for owner I wanted read write, for group I wanted read execute. So let me ask you, read write what is the number? For read write what is the number? 6, right? For read write 6 is the number. For read execute 5 is the number. Read execute. For others also I wanted to give read write 6 on the file 1. Now the permissions got changed. Now the permissions got changed. On mute, yeah. So now what Bhaskar can do, he can read the file, he can modify the file, both he can do. So cat file 1, he can read it, vi file 1. This time it will not overwritten. It will have the insert mode, and then this is a second update. Second update done by Bhaskar, something whatever it is. So what does it do? It will save the content whatever he done because he got the write privilege now and read privilege both. He can append the data or he can content, he can modify the existing content. Whatever you wanted, you can do it. You don't overwrite the file anymore. But here, this is something for understanding only. So what you need to understand is every file or directory will have 3 layers of permissions. One is the owner permission, group permission, others permission. Always you need to control the other permissions on the files or directories whatsoever. You have to control it. Others should not do bad activities on the file systems, right? Other means anyone for that matter. You who enter into the machine, they get the privilege if you give it to others. That should be controlled, in fact, and managed. So that anyway, we will do it on the system files. You should not give any privilege to others on the system directories where the system runs, in fact. You know, you understood giving the privilege to others, how harmful it is. Bhaskar is nowhere related to this file. He can modify the content of the entire file. He can delete it, he can create it, the entire new data into the file. That something is not good, right? And this is, and the product files, you cannot do it. No one should do it, unauthorized people. So that's why you need to control the privileges. So our privileges are comes to the group accounts. Individually, we cannot get the privileges. Giving individually is a huge headache for any organization. In a big organizations, we will have a lot of people who works as a DBAs, right? I work as a MongoDB, I work as a Postgres. So I have to access both the servers. My I have only one user. That user should access both the servers, MongoDB servers, Postgres servers. There should be different groups for each product. Okay. The same way here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a group first. Sudo group add, creating a separate group add MongoDB, maybe MongoDB DBA, MongoDB DBA. Let's see. Okay, it is created. MongoDB DBA is the group. Now, what is the group I'm part of? I can find this. I'm part of the Ravinder. My user itself is my group by default. And wheel group. What is a part of Bhaskar? Is part of which group? If you look at is name itself is a group. If you are not giving the group when you're creating it. I'll talk about every time you create a user, you have to assign him to a group, particular group in the real time. But we are coming from the basics, so that's why I did not add up to the group. Let's talk about the group. So then I did not finish the permission side yet. Symbolic mode we talked about, absolute mode we talked about, symbolic mode we'll see it. So now try to understand. I'm going to add Bhaskar to a group called MongoDBA. So how do I add? Sudo. So right now, what is a Bhaskar group? Group ID. GID means group ID. Groups. What are the secondary groups is part of? The same group what is as a primary. Now I wanted to add him to the SQL MongoDB DBA group. Sudo user mod. Okay. Additional group. Additional group is -a capital G, and the group name is Mongo. Sorry, it has to be case sensitive. MongoDB DBA. To whom I wanted to add this one? Bhaskar. If I do this, if I go and check for Bhaskar, he will be part of the MongoDB group. Who? Bhaskar. Bhaskar is part of the MongoDB group. Just now we added him. Now, what I'll do, I'll take out the privilege on that file. Try to understand here. Others got the read right. I'm going to take out that privilege. Sudo chmod, okay, 740 file 1. Others lost the privilege on that file. Others don't have any privilege. Now, if I go and read with the Bhaskar user, I cannot read that file anymore. Why? Bhaskar is the other, is not part of the owner, is not part of the group. So others don't have a privilege, right? Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make the group. I'm going to give the privilege to the group. I'm going to change the group on the file called MongoDBA. It's a group, in fact. So there is a command called chown, changing the ownership. Sudo. I'm not finishing these commands, don't worry. Chmod, chown, again I'll discuss multiple times in the product also. Sudo chown. We are changing the ownership of the file on the group side. So chown, and the group is actually user is root only. Group is MongoDB DBA on file 1. Okay. I'm changing the file ownership to root is root, let it be owner, but the group I'm changing it. So if I execute this one, all these commands are there in the document. Whatever I'm discussing here, they are there in the document. Okay, chown, change group, chown, chmod. I did not mention chmod somewhere. Anyway, we'll talk about it. This is being discussed actually in the slides, but better follow the session. It is easy to follow. So now, if I go and check the file is owned by a group called MongoDB DBA. Now, if Satish, let me ask this question. Now Bhaskar can read this file as group got the read privilege and he is part of this group. Can the Bhaskar read this file? It's a question. Yes, right? He should read it because he's part of the group, that group owning the file. So file 1, he can read it. Sorry, you have to log off and log in when the new permissions are given. It's a big bad thing. We cannot do anything. I have to log off and log in with the Basker user. When new permissions are given or added to your account, you cannot just verify in the same session where you are already connected. You have to log off and log in to take the new permissions into effect. That's how it is. Where lab. So here, if I go and check this file, ID Basker, if I see it, is part of the MongoDB DBA group. And MongoDB DBA group on this file has a read privilege. This is the link it has, in fact. Cat file 1, I can read it, but I cannot edit it. I cannot modify it. If the group got the right privilege, yes, I can even modify it. Not through others, through the group. You guys following what I'm trying to discuss here? Bhaskar does not have any direct permission on this file, but he got the privilege through the group because he is part of the group. Getting the point? Yes or no? Say something else. This is very important. So how you understand the permissions is important. Escape. I modified. If I'm trying to save it, it is a cannot modify the content. In fact, you cannot. So what I have to do? Only quit without saving. So the file, how it was, the same way it is. In fact, you cannot modify the content because group did not get the right privilege on the file through the group. So to the group, I'm going to assign more privilege intentionally. Sudo chmod. Group should have read write, owner should have read write, group also should have read write. Others again 0. File 1. Okay. Now if I go and verify, group got the read write. Others no permissions, but still Bhaskar can read the file. Cat file 1. He can read it. He can modify also. Vi file 1. Insert mode. He can modify because this is the third update done by Bhaskar, whatever it is. Okay. Escape colon WQ exclamatory to save it. Cat file 1. So now he added a third line through group privilege, not through his individual account privilege. Through group, he's part of the MongoDB DBA. That's why. Can Ravinder modify the content of this file? It's a question. Ravinder is other. He's not part of the group. He's not part of the ownership. So can Ravinder modify or read this file? It's a question. Yes or no? You should say. You should answer it.
No.
No, right? No. Why? Because he's nowhere related to that file. He's nowhere related to that file. He has a sudo over, but he has to explicitly call that privilege sudo cat file. Then he will his account verified. Okay, is a sudo over or not? Then it will read. Example, if he is trying to read this file 2. So let me go and load some data into that. Vi sudo vi file 2 just for the case. So insert. This is sample file created for permissions discussion, whatever it is. I'm just saving it. This file has some content. Sudo cat file 2. It has some content. Okay. This is a file created for sample discussion, whatever it is. So now you have to answer whether I can read that file or not. Look at it and tell me whether Bhaskar can read this file or not. It's a question. Can he read it? Look at the permissions quickly.
Yes.
Yes, he can
Yes.
because others got the read privilege. So cat file 2, he can read it. Now, yeah, go on mute. So sudo, I'll change the privilege again. I'll ask the question. Slowly try to catch it up because this is how the permissions work. It is something it takes little time to understand permission side, especially others you can easily find it, understand it. So file 2, Ravinder also cannot read it. Why? Because directly is not nowhere related to that file. Even Bhaskar also nowhere related. But now I'm going to create one more group. So sudo group add. So then uh, reads is there. So I want to take the privilege first. Sudo chmod 700 7 example 740 file 2. So read write execute for the owner, only read for group and no permission to others. You can find it. So yeah. And now this guy was reading before, now he cannot read it. Why? Because on the file 2 others permission has been taken out. File 2. Now I'm going to make one more group. I'm going to make him part of that group. So now you get at least fair idea. It is equivalent to Windows only. The Windows group, concept, Unix group concept is similar. There is no difference in fact. But everything goes through the group in real time, not individual accounts. So now sudo group add. I'm creating a new group. In fact, SQL DBA 10. Something I wanted to intentionally create one more group, SQL DBA 10. Now I wanted to add Bhaskar into this group. Okay, ID Bhaskar is part of the MongoDB and his own group. Now I wanted to make this group also for his ID. So sudo user mod, okay, additional group, secondary group, and what is the group name? SQL DBA 10 to Bhaskar. Okay, now ID Bhaskar, you can find what are the groups he is part of this way. He is part of SQL DBA also now. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the group on the file to the SQL DBA, to the SQL DBA. So sudo chown, okay, and owner of the file is root only. I wanted to keep it root, and group of the file is SQL DBA 10. On which file? File 2. So we are changing the ownership of the file on the file 2. Owner is as is. I can change it to any other user if I wanted. And group, I am changing it to root to SQL DBA group. Now if I hit enter, the ownership of the file for the group is changed. It was root before, now it is SQL DBA. Now you have to tell me what Bhaskar can do on the file. If I go and check here, Bhaskar is part of the SQL DBA 10 and this file, and group got the read privilege. So can Bhaskar read that file? Yes or no?
Yes, he
Question.
can.
Yes, it should
Yeah.
be part of. So whenever you get a new privilege through the groups, you have to log off and log in. See, it should read in fact, because it's part of the group. We can verify it also. But this is a confusing thing for a lot of people. You have to log off and log in when you get added to new group. To get those group privilege to your user ID, you have to log off and log in once. It's mandatory. Don't just verify in the same session. Log off once, log in once, then new token will be generated. That token will verify the new group privileges and add it to it. So it's like that. CD var lab. Oh, sorry, I should go to it is a case sensitive. Okay, the file name, folder name, everything is case sensitive. So now if I go and read file 2, I can read it. I can only read it in fact. Why I can only read it? Because I am part of this group. This group got only read privilege, not the write privilege. You cannot modify that file content. VI file 2, it will clearly say that, warning, anyway it is read only, it is saying at the beginning. Something adding it randomly. I'm trying to save it. It will throw the error. Can't open the file for writing. It is only for reading in fact. To quit this without saving it, you should just quit it straight away. Else it will not come out of that VI window at all. Because you modified, you have to quit without saving it. Then only it will close. Else it will keep saying that cannot be open for write. So now this is how our group privilege will be given. So this group will be added in the sudo group. All our, all the people who are part of that group will get the sudo. So if I come to here, there is something called sudo cat etc sudoers file. Okay. If I read this, Vamshi got the sudo privilege, Ravinder got the sudo privilege, and Shiva also got the. I added these people already before. These are the three guys who got the root privilege. Root anyway by default will get the super privilege by default. Equivalent to this user, root user, others also got the same privilege. If I wanted to give the Bhaskar root user, I can add it here. Bhaskar, I keep the same thing here in this file. So Bhaskar also can become a sudo. So example, Ravinder is actually here. I'm trying to make a directory. Try to understand this. Directory called data, permission denied. When I use sudo mkdir data, it is created. Actually, I gave my password recently, so it is cached. It got created. Okay. Now if I go to Bhaskar session, okay, mk lsfnl mkdir lab is a directory I wanted to create. It is throwing the error. Lab already exists, sorry. So maybe lab 10, permission denied. I'll use sudo with his account. It will ask, okay, are you a sudo or are you part of sudo or? It is verifying, double verifying your session again. I'm giving his password. It is clearly saying that Bhaskar is not in the sudo file. This incident will be reported. It will send a mail to all the admins, in fact, in the real time. In our environment, non-sudo trying to use a sudo privilege. Sudo with his account, it will report, it will get a mail, so and so person is trying to use a sudo kind of, because they are not part of it, it will generate an email immediately. That's okay. Email is secondary part. What you need to understand, just it is not going and using sudo straight away. It is verifying, is your account is part of this file or not. If it is there, then only it will verify your account as a sudo and then make you do that action. And everybody cannot use sudo. Whoever part of the sudo, they can do it, not all. Is it clear? Yes or no? Say something. You guys confused, followed? Say something, guys. I wanted to go ahead with different discussions, but this is very, very important thing you need to aware of. This is where things go wrong as a beginner on the product side. You should know it. What accounts can modify, what accounts cannot, and where you can do, where you cannot. Basically, with the privilege, you can need to understand. So here, in the real time, our group accounts are part of the sudo file. MongoDB and all, if I give it, whoever part of this group will get the sudo privilege. So our individual account does not get added to sudo. Our group accounts, domain group accounts will be added into sudo file. So whoever part of that group will get the sudo privilege on the machine. It is equivalent to Windows only. Your accounts are added to a group, domain group. That domain group is added to local administrative group. Is that clear? So in the real time, what do? As a SQL DBA, our accounts, not just a SQL DBA or any DBA for that matter, if you are working in the Windows platform, your group will be added here. Then only you can do the job with the administrative actions, installing, uninstalling, updating the service packs, everything you can do only when you are the part of the local administrative group. All our SQL DBA groups or any DBA group should be part of the local administrator group. Then only you can do on the machine, installation, uninstalling, updating, anything you wanted to create the folder, delete the folder. You can only do because you have the privileges of administrator on every machine. You are part of this group and every machine where the SQL is running. The same way in the Unix flavor also, this is not a different story. It is the same story. You get your own group. That group will be mapped to the sudo file with all. So whoever part of that group can do all the sudo activities. But when you're doing the sudo activities, you have to explicitly call the sudo here. Is that clear? You guys need to respond. This is important. This is a good group concept. In Unix and Windows, there is no difference as such. Only understanding is little different. Why? Because your group concept come through a file. There it is a group and you will map as a through wizard. Here there is no wizard, everything through the command. That's where you might confuse. Create a user,
So,
add the user. Yeah,
yeah, Ravinder, when you create a group, so we need to add it manually to the sudo file.
yes, it's manual. First time it is manual, yes. Who will do this? Only OS people will add here. You don't touch this file. Sudoers file you never touch. You have the access. See, in the real time also, and Windows boxes, we don't add other people into local administrative group, except our group if at all I wanted, someone from our team. So Windows team will do it. The same way here also, our group accounts are added by OS, Linux OS people, not by us. You never touch the sudo file, in fact. But I'm just giving you as a knowledge.
So the sudo file can be edited only by root user.
Yes, as a root user, we can also edit as a DBA because we are part of the sudo. Anyone who are part of the sudo can edit the sudo file. But you are not supposed to as a product guy.
Okay.
Okay, you can add anyone else's account here as a sudo and then they can do anything, but it is not your job to add. It is the OS team job to add groups here who are authorized. So if it is a Mongo server and you are MongoDB, your group will be added in the sudo file because you have to install the product, you have to run the product, you have to stop the product, you have to delete the directories if you want to claim this unnecessary file space. All that is a sudo only can do it, right? So that way it is equivalent almost. If you compare with the Windows, it is almost equal. It is not different. So the permissions will work that way through the group concept. We will be part of the groups. Those groups will be added in the sudoers. Our privilege will see. Bhaskar is nowhere related. Bhaskar account is nowhere related, but he is part of the group. So he is validating his permissions to the group. The group got what privilege it got. That is what he is doing on the file. So it is inherent through the group. Your permissions are inherent through the group because you are part of that group. That group got sudo privilege. You guys following what I'm trying to say? This is a very important. This must be known to all of you. There is no exception on this side. Let me know, please don't keep it quiet if you have question, because these are all very basic and it is very important knowledge to work on the Unix flavor as a DBA. Okay,
So Ravinder,
right?
like if
So
MongoDB DBA group is added to the sudo file, whoever is part of that group will have sudo access, right?
that's correct.
Okay. So in that case, if we are changing the permission, we don't have to exit and exit and relog in the server again, right? We can
No, you
prefix
have to.
sudo.
You have to, at least current session, you have to close it out and then reopen. Then it will generate the new token with the new permission set.
I can
Whenever new group is.
okay. I cannot straight away use sudo and the file name to read it or exit whatever privilege that file has. So I have to exit and
Right.
relog in again.
Yes, that is mandatory. So getting the new privilege given through the group, you have to log off and log in to verify that. That's what I was not able to read, but after relogging, I was able to read. You have seen that, right? Same thing.
Yes,
When the
I saw that, but just have a doubt like how about for sudo user? Even for sudo user, we have to exit and log in again.
if anything that is coming through a new group, so that is should be loaded through a new token. In fact, it will generate a token for your session. The token need to read that groups where you are part of.
Okay.
It is like that. So now, generally, we don't create the users, assign the groups later on. There will be predefined syntaxes people do follow. So now I'll create one more user with the existing group straight away without doing all this. So let's create this. I mean another user just for the case of discussion. So sudo user add example Senthil, and the group is primary group is small g, not capital G is additional group. Small g means primary group. So I'm adding him to directly to MongoDB DBA directly. When I'm creating itself, I'm assigning a group to him. His default group will be MongoDB DBA now. So I'm creating Senthil account with the default ID Senthil example. Okay. If I check it, is part of the MongoDB straight away because I assign a group when I'm creating it. This is how user accounts will be created in the real time. Just you cannot create a user when you're creating itself. You have to assign the group. So if I wanted to add one more group to him, then I'll change the password. I'll do something else. Sudo user mod additional group. Additional A means additional, -G means secondary group to what was that, SQLDBA 10 to Senthil. This way, if I go and check Senthil account, is part of two groups. Sorry. So it's part of a MongoDBA and SQLDBA. Is SQLDBA is the secondary group, primary group is MongoDBA. So it's a primary group, in fact. Okay. So if you wanted to know just groups, groups also will tell you what are the groups you are part of. In fact, groups, just let me group Senthil, right? So for Senthil, what are the groups he is part of? You can query like this also. Groups and username. Groups, if you give it, you are going to get what you are, what are the groups you are part of. But you wanted to check for someone else, groups, username, that user is part of what are the groups. This way you have to verify. So one user may be part of many groups, like me, like I work on Postgres, I work on Mongo, if I work on Oracle, if I work on MySQL, all the different products, my user ID is part of many groups on the Unix platform. So it is entirely, it will detect, in fact, all the groups where you are part of. Okay, this is how we can easily find. I guess this is clear to all. What group concept is clear? How you get the privilege through group, it is clear for you, all of you, I guess. Yes or no? Fine. Let me do the last thing. So clear the screen. Now try to understand this. Another level of important thing you need to understand. Can I create a directory here? mkdir. Can I create? Lab 10. Can I create? No. You are not authorized. You are not authorized to any of these groups because where you are in the lab directory. So you don't have a right privilege at the directory level. Using the Bhaskar user, MongoDB or MongoDB DBA or SQL DBA 10 does not have a right privilege. If I come back one directory back, try to understand. Lab is owned by root. Okay, this is owned by root. Now I'll change the ownership to group, not to the root. Change the ownership to group. Sudo, sorry, you cannot do. Bhaskar is not part of sudo. I have to go from here only. cd dot. Follow this carefully. So I'm changing the ownership of the directory to a different group where Bhaskar is part of. So this is another level you need to understand. Sudo chown. I'll not change the owner of the directory, but I'll change the group. And here I'm going to do lab. Okay. Now you go and check here. We use this a lot in our product. Whenever we create Mongo servers, service accounts need to get the privilege. We will do a lot, but here as a basics you need to know. Now MongoDBA owns the directory. What this can do, group as a group, read, write, execute to owner, root, read, execute to group. So now you need to just follow this carefully. If I come here, I'll ask questions first. So cd lab. Now can I read this file? Directly can I read this file or not? Let me load some data. cd vi sudo vi file 3, insert mode. There is sample file added first demo, something whatever it is. I'm saving it. Now this file has some content. Okay, this file has some content. Now if I go and read that file, I can read it. I can read this file, but I'm taking the privilege out of that. Sudo chmod 660 on the file 3. Now on the file 3, others lost the privilege. Others lost the privilege on the file 3. Right? Now, if I read the file 3 from this account, with what account? Bhaskar. Oh, come on, I need to log in and log off once. Just a minute. Bhaskar. CD where MongoDB. Sorry, CD where lab. Now, Bhaskar should not read this file, file 3, or it is not inheriting from the directory. DBA. MongoDB is having a read-write privilege on the directory, but within the file is restricting it. It's okay because he's not part of the group. How do I explain this? Maybe in a different way. Let's do this way. MongoDB DBA is owner and did not give write privilege. Read execute to the group and the directory. I'll give a write privilege also. If I go and see here, mkdir lab 100, I cannot create, but sudo chmod 7 and what it does after this 5. It's okay, let it be whatever it has by default, lab. Now group got the more privilege. MongoDB got the read write execute on the directory. So, and this directory owned by MongoDBA, and Bhaskar is part of the MongoDBA group. This is a hierarchy you need to understand. ID Bhaskar is part of MongoDBA group. MongoDBA group has a read write execute privilege on the directory called on the lab. Now previously I was not able to create a directory. I should create a directory now. It got created. It got created a directory. Also, if I wanted to create more directories, maybe lab temp, temp, okay, temp, maybe data is already there. Anyway, mkdir, sorry, command was wrong. Mkdir temp db, whatever it is. Now Bhaskar can create the directory. So how it happened? Let me explain with the diagram. Sorry. So now what we have done, this is a var directory. This is a var. Under that we have a lab. Okay. Here we gave a permission to MongoDB. MongoDB, we gave the privileges. MongoDB has a read write privilege here. And Bhaskar is part of this group. This group can do read write execute. So Bhaskar can do anything from this directory. If Bhaskar wanted to delete a file which is owned by root, this file owned by a root, purely owned by a root, right? Which file? File 3. RM file 3. Yes, I wanted. It's gone. It's gone, though Bhaskar does not own that file. The file 3 is not owned by him or is not part of the group. Still, he can delete it. Why? Because the underlying bucket is entirely writable for him. He can modify anything within this directory. Bhaskar can destroy the entire content of the lab. Why? Because the group got the right privilege. Right means you can insert, delete, update, create a new file, anything. So Bhaskar is part of the MongoDB. MongoDB, again, Bhaskar is part of the MongoDB directory. MongoDB has the right privilege on the directory. So that's why Bhaskar can able to create a new directories, delete the new directories or delete the directories or create a new directory or any file which is owned by anyone. It doesn't matter. So here all the root directories, where whatever you have it, you can delete it because he's owning the parent directory. The subdirectories, the permissions will inherit. You guys following what I'm trying to say? Confused, followed, please say something. This is important. See, let me reconclude. You might have confused. Lab is the directory owned by MongoDB group. Okay, this group has a read, write, execute, which means within the directory I can read all the files, I can delete all the files, I can execute if any file is there with this group account. So now Bhaskar went inside that group, inside the lab, inside this directory, and is part of the MongoDB group. So MongoDB group got full privilege on the bucket where these files are sitting, the file system where it is sitting. And the lab directory, MongoDB group account can do anything. It can create, it can delete existing files, anything it can do. You guys following? I can delete, example, this directory test, which is owned by different user altogether, RMDR test. It's gone. Bhaskar is nowhere related to that file. But how he is getting that privilege? Through the group account on the directory. Through this group account on the directory. And whatever inside in it, whoever owns it doesn't matter. Because he got the ownership on the parent directory itself. You guys following it? Say something, please.
Yes, Ravindra.
Yeah, if you understood this, you can understand a lot of things when we start the product. Because who can delete, who has the privileges through the group? In fact, individual privilege no one will entertain in the real world. In the enterprise companies, you don't get the individual privilege. You have to go through the groups only, and the groups will be given pseudo-overs. Pseudo-overs can do it, but in the real time, what we do, under where Mongo server is running from the MongoDB directory, as in my case. Here is a data directory. Under etc, you'll have your config directories. On this file, you'll give the ownership to service account. On this file, you'll give the ownership to service account. That's it. Your entire Mongo will run. You no need to give the more privilege to service accounts. In fact, you should not give it as per the best security standards. Service account should not have the enough of permissions to destroy the entire system. You should not do that. In fact, so we're going to talk about towards this a lot. So this is about the group concept, guys. We are done with the groups. Please let me know if you have any questions. Creating the group add, group sudo group add, group name. It will create the group. Assigning the group. So we have done that username. Right, I was creating the user. Creating a user and assigning a group. Sudo, where it is sudo something like that, right? So here, sudo user add Senthil group. Default group will get added. When the user you created, this group added to him. The same way, the OS team will have the syntaxes. They'll whoever part of this profile, they should be part of these many groups. They'll come and run on the OS, and then we'll get the rights by default. This kind of syntaxes, or wherever he should be part of. The groups will be defined like this. Okay. So through the groups, we get the rights and we do the operations on the servers. This is about the permissions and groups. Again, this thing you have to, either you keep in your mind or you play with these numbers to change the permissions. chmod. Chown means changing the directory ownership itself straight away. We will do this on daily basis anyway. When I start the product also, I will do again and again. You definitely get familiarized with all the commands I discussed, but if I discuss in the beginning, it will be easy for you to follow. That's the intention, to discuss OS basics first, then product. Okay, so this is called absolute mode to change the privileges using these numbers. There is something called symbolic mode. Symbolic mode, I don't use it, but it is very easy to follow. Symbolic mode to change the permissions. So in symbolic mode, user means owner. User or owner, either of it is. Okay, group means group only. O means others. Others, okay. So here, using symbolic mode, I'll save this, I'll send it across to everyone, don't worry. In symbolic mode, how do we assign the privileges? I will remove it on the file side. So where I am right now, in the var cd lab, just for the case of discussion. So now I wanted to change the permission on the file to read, write, execute to owner. It is there. For group, I wanted to give read, execute, and others also read, execute. So sudo, okay, chmod. I wanted to give it to group plus others, plus what I wanted to give read and execute. On what file? File 2. So you can either add the privilege or remove the privilege. You cannot do adding and removing at one go using the symbolic mode. That is a disadvantage. If I run this, I'll explain again. Don't worry. It is simple than the that thing. Sorry, chmod. It is chmod. Kept right. Now if I go and check the file permissions, the file 2. If you see read, write, so read, execute. Group and others both got the read, execute. I wanted to take all the privileges from the group. Again, sudo chmod group and others. I want to take all privileges, whatever you have it, whatever the privileges you have for others, read, execute. So rx on the file, what file? File 2. I'm taking the privilege again. If I go and check, group lost the privilege, others also lost the privilege. If you wanted to add, if you wanted to remove for the user also, I mean owner also, just for the case, u minus rx. So user also cannot, the owner also cannot read the file now, only write. Owner also, in fact. You should not do that, in fact, with the sudo. It is a very force command. Now, if I wanted to add all privilege to all, sudo u means owner, g means group, o means others, plus read, write, execute on the file to all privilege to all. What happened? Sudo chmod, sorry. This is called symbolic mode. The file to owner got the read, write, execute, group got the read, write, execute, others also got the read, write, execute on this file. So u means owner, g means group, o means others. Adding the permissions, you are appending the permissions, in fact. Plus means add the privilege, minus means take the privilege. Either you add once and remove in the next. You cannot add, remove at one go. But when you use symbolic mode, numbers, it will add it, it will remove it based on the number. But here you either add the privilege or you remove the privilege. One of the thing you can do, not both at one go. Is it clear? It is very simple. Adding a privilege to whom? Owner, group, or others. Okay, you are identified. What permissions you want? What permissions you want to remove it? Plus means Add what permission to group or owner or others, whoever. Adding plus, removing minus. That's it. It is such a simple thing. Is it clear? Don't keep quiet. I mean, if you have a question, I mean, I'm okay to answer any
Yes,
silly
sir.
question, but you have to get clear. Yeah, thank you. Why? Because, I'm okay to spend more time. I don't want to just finish the course on the fly. It's not my intention. I'm okay to extend some classes extra, which is okay for me. The intention is to make you understand. That is important. If you don't understand, if I progress, that doesn't make any sense for the entire program, in fact. So better to come up if you have a question. Well, because this is a time you are learning a new product, you right from the basics be clear so that it will help you out. I'm okay to take out any silly question. Maybe you're new to this platform. If I ask this question, it might look silly. No, don't think that way. Just ask if you have anything in your mind. Fine. This way you can manage the permissions using the symbolic mode. Absolute mode means numbers. Sudo chmod and change the permissions. Like you wanted this one 777 file 2. That's it, it'll apply. If I wanted to add 7 to the owner, 4 to the group, 2 to the others, I can apply in the single command is absolute mode. It will apply removal, adding both, it will be done when you give through the numbers. But when you go to symbolic mode, either plus or minus at one go. Both you cannot be applied. Adding the privilege or removing the privilege at one go. But if I wanted to chmod sudo chmod 742 file 2, this is adding the privilege, removing the privilege also it does. Based on that, based on the number what it applies the privilege. It is added, it is removed all. But with the symbolic mode you cannot do both, adding once, removing in the second one. So like that, one at a time, not both at a time. Is it clear? So permissions in the absolute mode, we have seen permissions in the absolute mode. This is absolute mode, the numbers 1 to 4 owner and 7 to say this. When we divide this one permissions, first 3 digits are the owner, next 3 digits are the group, next 3 digits are the others. So that way you can just check it out. So read permission, write permission, execute permission, no permissions. I have discussed it. This is the best thing I would say. Follow this for better understanding than the PPT. Symbolic mode, user, group, others, all. A means all. If you wanted to apply everyone, A plus A minus you can keep. UGO will be applied straight away. So let's quickly do that if you want. So if I look at here, all to all, sudo chmod A plus, I wanted to add execute permission to all, only execute file 2. Now all got the execute permission on the file 2. Execute for group, execute for others. That way, all execute. Take out all the execution from all A minus X. It will take from the owner also if you do so. If you check here, file 2, the execute permission taken from owner, group, others, everyone. A means all. So that way. So to find the number of groups, what other groups are there in entire file system? Sudo cat etc group. If you read this, these many groups. SQL DBA I created today. MongoDB DBA also I created today. Every user is also a group by default. If you are not mentioning the group when you are creating the user, if you are not mentioning the group when you are creating the user, username itself will become a group, default group. So that's why it is become a group here. For Senthil, there is no group because when I created Senthil, I added the Senthil to one of the group, right? So that way, under SQL DBA group, who are part of this group, Bhaskar is part of this group and Senthil is also part of this group. So here also you can find, you have many people who are part of the group. You wanted to know all the people who are part of that group, read this file, etc groups. In this group, Bhaskar is part of it and Senthil is also part of it. That way, MongoDB only Bhaskar is part of it. You guys following it, I guess? Yes or no? And there is something called password. Here you'll find all user details. So Bhaskar, Senthil, all the users who are in the system will be found here in the etc PSSWD file. You'll find all the user details. In fact, whoever, all the groups, etc groups, users, etc PSSWD. Okay. If you wanted to know the user passwords, there is a file called shadow, etc shadow. Don't, it will hold each user password also, but these passwords are encrypted. You cannot decrypt it. These are all passwords of the users, in fact. Okay. This is the shadow file. etc shadow file will hold the entire user's password on the local system. Groups, etc groups will hold all the users and who are part of that group also, the users who are part of that group. And shadow is the passwords, and what are the commands? Password will hold the user details, groups will hold the group details. For your sake of understanding, I'm just covering that. So etc password, etc group, I mentioned these commands anyway. Right, group add to MongoDB, you are adding a new group, and when you're creating the user, adding the secondary group. When you're creating it, you can add it. You can, user mode means existing user. User add means new user, in fact. Okay, so you follow this. Actually, you had to practice once to get. There are very important discussion. This is the most of the administration you can do using this. A lot of administration. These commands we used very frequently, and this will spend at least half an hour on this commands. If you know these commands, it is enough to manage the product and the Unix side. Next maybe 40 minutes more, I'll discuss on the Unix basics, then we'll take the product introduction tomorrow. But these commands are very important along with this. Okay, so that's all for today. So any questions from anyone before I stop? I'll share this.
Bhaskar,
Yeah, go ahead.
Ravinder, is it possible to add Bhaskar as a sudo group?
Yes, why not? We can add anyone. Why not? So if you want to add, let me do it. So only sudo can, one sudo can add other one as a sudo. So Bhaskar is trying to create cd var example, just for the case, mkdir db 100 something, permission denied. If I go to here sudo, okay, if I'm trying to do this, is not part of the sudo. Now I wanted to make him part of the sudo. Only one sudo can make other one as a sudo. Etc sudo. I'll go to here at the end of the file. I'll paste it and then I'll add this as it is and save this file. Now Bhaskar became sudo. Now he was not able to create the mkdir with the sudo without sudo also. Now I'll go with the sudo and I'll give the Bhaskar password. Now it is created because it's part of the sudo already now. This way. Bhaskar is sudo now. You can do anything that you wanted.
Okay.
In this case, the user doesn't have to log out, right? This was maybe a earlier question.
Right. This sudo part no need to. Group, when you get the privilege through the group, then you have to definitely log off and log in. It is not, I did not get this guy get the permission directly, not through the group. Where it is through the group, yes, you have to log off and log in. That you must do it.
Okay.
Right. So that's all for today. Any questions before I stop? I'm stopping it.